Here's Ben Shapiro, who, is a critic of Donald Trump's. He just calls him as he sees it. And of course, he's trying to, there was a suggestion by Donald Trump that perhaps maybe we should drop a nuke to blow the hurricane apart.
Just spitball.
And, here's the thing with nuclear weapons or nukes of any kind. When they explode, they spread this thing called radiation. And the tough thing about these sort of radioactive, is it isotopes or this material? They don't have that whole thing with fruit flies? Where they all had a half-life. They would all die, they go through their whole life cycle in what is it, an hour and a half or something like that. It's the opposite with radioactive material.
Then you move.
It takes a long time. And when you have an explosion, things fly out in all sorts of different directions. And then when you have an explosion near a massive weather storm, it's also, there's going to be a lot of flinging. Ben Shapiro's not worried about that.
They're talking about this dumb story that President Trump wanted to nuke hurricanes, which, by the way, I don't even care whether it does anything. It just sounds cool. I mean, what if there are sharks in the hurricanes? What if it's a Sharknado? What then, guys? Have you thought about that? Just the idea. Anytime you're talking about nuking a random thing that's not really going to hurt anybody, I'll admit, the 13-year-old boy in me is kind of for it. In any case, it's a dumb story. CNN decided to make it a big story, and then they brought on April Ryan, who is supposedly a reporter.
This is funny.
This is he's trying, this is what they'll do, right? They will make fun of the thing that is so ridiculous to diminish the insanity of it.
It's a metacritical.
His party fully supports a chief executive of this country who wants to blow up a hurricane with nuclear weapons. Is that a dumb story? Is that something that Americans shouldn't be aware of? This is, incidentally, I would also add, after the U.S. government called for a program to start allowing nukes in outer space. There's clearly at the top of our government a lack of awareness about the capacity for nuclear weapons or nuclear materials to harm thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. And he's poo-pooing. It's stupid. This is a media critique piece that he's doing here.
Well, I mean, if you nuked a hurricane and presumably that radiation got into the ocean, maybe washed ashore or something like that, you don't think people are just going to sell their house?
Okay, so stipulate the entirety of the oceans become liquefied with the rain of nuclear acid. Okay, then you would just move. You just flip your beachfront property.
Now, I'm surprised this is still there, but at the National Atlantic Oceanographic Meteorological, or I should say the Atlantic Oceanographic Meteorological Laboratory, as part of the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, there's a hurricane research division, and they have frequently asked questions. And one of those frequently asked questions, I've just IM'd it to you, Matt, is why don't we try to destroy tropical cyclones by nuking them?
Is that serious?
During each hurricane season, there always appears a suggestion that one should simply use nuclear weapons to try and destroy the storms.
I mean, we got them.
Apart from the fact that this might not even alter the storm, this approach neglects the problem that released radioactive fallout would fairly quickly move with the trade winds to affect land areas and cause devastating environmental problems. Needless to say, this is not a good idea.
That's what I'm saying. Just move. Just sell your house.
Now, that's just the first paragraph. And then they go on to say, now for a more rigorous scientific explanation, in other words, we've just given you the idiot version. The main difficulty with using explosives to modify hurricanes is the amount of energy required. So in other words, even a nuclear weapon doesn't have the power of these storms.
What about like an H-bomb?
But here's
don't
the
know.
point.
Melted a lot of Japanese
This is
people.
indicative of a president and an administration and a party that completely neglects science, where you have a president who is somehow getting his information from complete whack jobs. Whack jobs. And maybe we dodged this bullet, but we don't know if we'll dodge the next. And this is just a ridiculous story. It tells us nothing about the current state of affairs.
Trump derangement syndrome at it again.
Yep. If Barack Obama wanted to nuke something, we'd probably have done it by now. Calling by 201 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?